Welcome back to day 9 of your descriptive statistics unit. For today, you are going to be needing something to write with, as well as a graphing calculator. All right, so our goal for today, given data from a sample of people in a two-way frequency table, you will be able to find the relative frequencies and predict a value for a larger population. So there's a lot of new things for today. The first being a two-way frequency table, relative frequencies, and predicting values for larger populations. Okay, my big helpful hint for today is to make sure that you read very carefully. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's take a look at our two-way frequencies and relative frequency. Okay, so the first thing we have at the top here are our definitions. So what is relative frequency? Well, relative frequency is a fraction. How often something happens over the total outcomes. Now, percent, this is something we're used to working with, which is how often something happens over your total outcomes times 100%. So percent is actually just the relative frequency, except you're multiplying it by 100 at the end. Okay, so let's take a look at our first survey of people. So below is a survey of 45 students. No, actually, there's not 45 students. There's actually 60 students. Randomly picked from Amherst High School's 9th grade. Each person was asked their gender and their preferred ice cream flavor, vanilla or chocolate. So below here we have our results for the girls and results for the boys. And we put that into a two-way frequency table. So the reason it's called a two-way frequency table is because we're actually analyzing two things. We're analyzing their gender. We're also analyzing their ice cream preference, vanilla or chocolate. So there's actually two things that we're looking at here. All right, so let's take a look at what's going on in our table. So if we take a look here, 9 girls chose vanilla and 20 girls chose chocolate. So let's come over here and let's actually add on a column. Let's add on a column for our totals. So how many total girls are there? Well, 9 chose vanilla, 20 chose chocolate. So that means there's going to be 29 total girls. Okay, now let's take a look at the boys. 18 chose vanilla, 13 chose chocolate. That means there's a grand total of 31 total boys. Okay, now let's take a look at your totals going the other way. So let's take a look. How many people totally picked vanilla? Well, for vanilla, there's 9 and 18, so there is 27 total people that chose vanilla. Okay, and then for chocolate, let's add up what's our total. So 20 and 13 means there are 33 total people that like chocolate. Okay, so if we did this right, let's add up total. So let's take a look. 29 and 31 equals 60. 27 and 33 also equal 60. So we get 60 total, total people. So 60 total people. All right, so now that we know how to read our two-way frequency table, let's start using the data to start analyzing and answering some questions. So our first question, how many total students took the survey? Well, we just added those up, so there are a total of 60 people. So if there are 210 students in the 9th grade, did all the students take the survey? Well, if there's 210 students in the 9th grade, only 60 of them took the survey. So I would say no, not everybody took the survey. Okay, so next up, question 4. Of the students that chose vanilla, what percent of them are girls? And we're going to round to the nearest percent. Of the students that chose vanilla, what percent of them are girls? So this is the part that we have to make sure that we're reading very carefully. So of the students that chose vanilla, so we're only going to be using this group right here. Of the students that chose vanilla, What percent of them are girls? So let's take a look. So we have to remember our percent, how often something happens over total outcomes times 100%. So let's go ahead. So what part are the girls? And that's going to be over your total vanilla. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's try that out. So if we look at our vanilla, 9 of them are girls. Over, there was 27 total vanillas. And then we're going to multiply that because it asks for the percentage times 100. So now I'm going to take my calculator. 9 divided by 27 times 100. And we're going to get 33.3 repeating. It says to the nearest percent, so that's going to be 33%. Okay, now let's try question number 5. Of the students that chose chocolate, what percent of them are boys? So of the students that chose chocolate, that means we're only using the chocolate students, what percent of them are boys? So we're going to go ahead. So how often something happens, so the part that are the boys over the total for chocolate, okay, because that's going to be the total that we're working with. So let's go ahead and let's try that out. So part that are boys, so we're looking just at the chocolate. So 13 chose chocolate. The total chocolate is 33. And then we're going to multiply that by 100. So once again, I'm going to take my calculator. 13 divided by 33 times 100. And we get 39.39. So round to the nearest percent, that's going to be 39% of the boys, or of the chocolates, were boys. Okay, next up, question number 6. What is the relative frequency of the students that chose vanilla? So what is the relative frequency of students that chose vanilla? So relative frequency, remember, is how often something happens over the total outcomes. So here it wants the relative frequency of students that chose vanilla. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do total vanilla over total students. So the total that were vanilla, that was 27. Over total students, we know is going to be 60. So now we're going to go ahead and divide it. 27 divided by 60. And we get 0.45. It says to the nearest hundredth. So that's 2 decimal places. So the relative frequency is 0.45. Okay, so now let's take a look at question number 7. If there are 210 students in the 9th grade, what percent of them will prefer vanilla? How many students will that be? So remember, this was just a sample of students. However, a good sample can actually help you predict for a whole. So if there are 210 students in the 9th grade, what percent of them will prefer vanilla? Well, over here, isn't this the relative frequency of students that chose vanilla? So if I multiply this by 100, it'll give me my percentage. So 45% of the students will choose vanilla. How many students will that be? Well, there are 210 students times, and I'm going to multiply that by my relative frequency, 0.45, and that'll tell me how many students preferred vanilla. So 210 times 0.45, we get 94.5 students, but I can't have half of a student. So that means it's going to be 95 students will prefer vanilla. So think of that carefully. 45% of the students choose vanilla. So if there's 210, it's a little less than half, so 95 students. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our last 2 questions now. Okay, so if we take a look here, it says, what is the relative frequency of students that are girls and chose chocolate. So the relative frequency of students that are girls and chose chocolate. So that means I want to use just the girls, and I want the relative frequency of those that chose chocolate. So the part that chose chocolate is 20 over, okay, so this is the page number, over the total girls, which is 29. Okay, so let's go ahead and complete our relative frequency. So 20 divided by 29, and we get 0.689. So to the nearest hundredth, that'll be 0.69. Okay, so now if there are 120 girls in the 9th grade, what percent of them will choose chocolate? Well, over here we did our relative frequency of 0.69. So that means 69% of girls will choose chocolate. All right, so how many girls will that be? Well, there's 120 girls in the 9th grade times the percentage or the relative frequency. And let's see how many that will be. So 120 times 0.69, and we get 82.8. Okay, which is going to be approximately 83 girls. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, from a two-way frequency table, meaning we asked two questions or we're analyzing two different things, ice cream flavors and genders, we will be able to then predict values for a larger population of people by using the relative frequencies and the percentages. All right, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations on accomplishing your goal for day number 9.